Liberty DeVitto.
Yes.
What's happening, man?
Not much. I was just going through some stuff. And one of the, everybody has one of their dresser drawers is filled with a bunch of crap,
Right. Oh, no. That's awesome, man.
And a guitar pick.
Oh, my. I found a bunch of those guitar picks when I was moving into my new house here. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Speaking of hired gun, I'll flash this up here real quick. Can you see this?
Yeah, it's nice.
So you are in my movie Hired Gun. You play a giant role in this movie. And it's funny because you're the first person that I approached to interview in the film. I don't know if you recall that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. A friend of mine who was a drum tech when I was out with Five Finger Death Punch when I toured with those guys, I told him about the idea of the movie I wanted to make, or the documentary.
Right.
He goes, "You got to get Liberty DeVitto." And take no offense, I don't know who you were at the time. He goes, "Dude, his story is insane." So I'm like, okay. And I don't know how to find you, man. I just looked you up on Facebook and I sent you just a DM or whatever, private message. And you called me when I was in the bank, and I ran out of the bank to take your call. And then we arranged the interview. And I remember the first time I interviewed you, because I interviewed you twice. The first one was in Anaheim, California. Yeah. And you were still pretty wounded at that time about being let go. And it was a volatile, you weren't volatile, your words were volatile. And I'm like, I can't release this. You had some major anger issues. And I remember is maybe a year later, maybe even not even that long, but you told me that your wife had said, you need to go seek a life coach.
Yeah.
And it kind of turned your whole disposition around, I guess, right?
It did. It makes you, a life coach makes you look at things from a different perspective. Like I could blame Billy for everything that happened to me, but then I could also look at what Billy does and why he's Billy Joel for 60 years and kind of understand why he has to do what he does,
Right. And he says it in the movie too, and I know a lot of people that watch the film when they go into these forums or post stuff, they're really angry at Billy.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't really have that take on it. I was telling your story, Russell's story.
Right.
And it's just the way it came out, right? I don't think that I skewed it anyway. I gave Billy the opportunity. I actually emailed him directly. I don't know who gave me his email, but I emailed him and I got asked, can you send me some transcriptions and any scenes you have? And I was completely transparent about it. And I sent it to him. Never got a reply except for the Eastman's attorney saying, yeah, we'd like you to scratch all this stuff. Then it turned into this thing where I had to take it to our legal team. And they're like, well, Liberty's just telling a story. There's nothing defamatory here or libel. So I think the both of yours, like, I don't want to get you in trouble either. And I hope I didn't. But let me ask you, I asked this to Rudy Sarzo when I interviewed him last week, because you hadn't, I'm sure you do a ton of interviews for documentaries and stuff or TV shows, but doing the interview is one thing, right? You're conscious of what you're saying, but when you see it on the big screen with a music score under it, the editing, the archives, when you watched it back at South by Southwest for the first time on a giant 75-foot screen, what was your initial thoughts?
I thought it was one of the greatest things I had ever participated in. With some of the most amazing people that I couldn't believe that were sitting, you turn to my left or my right, and there's the person that's up on the screen.
Right.
Along with me. And there's that one great shot of me and Kenny and that whole row of us, and we're laughing so hard at something.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That it just, the movie had such ups and downs emotionally, that's what made it great. It wasn't just like, oh, woe is me, that kind of thing. It's like,
Right.
there was parts like, yeah, woe is me, but hey, look, I'm still doing it. We're still going at it, And
Still.
and
Yeah.
and I know I said to you a couple of times, like, oh, what are you going to make me famous again? Because there was a lull there for a while in my career. And I have to admit, yes, you did make me famous again.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad. I hope it worked out all positive. And I remember, I'll never forget this. I opened up social media and there's a picture of you and Billy Joel together recently.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did this transpire?
Yeah. Well, he never said he saw Hired Gun.
Hmm.
When he was asked, have you seen Hired Gun? And he goes, no, I heard about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I know Billy. He's the type that I got to see this movie.
Yeah. What kind of shit are they talking about me? And it wasn't, because I let him have his say in his own words about, band members, managers, whoever coming back for more money, more money, more money,
Yes.
who knows? You know what I mean? The only person that knows why he let everybody go is probably him and maybe a few close associates of his included. I don't know. Maybe, but how was that? Did you just reach out to him on a text to have that breakfast, or did he hit you up? How'd that work out?
Yeah, no, I was laying in the bed because it was the first time I had my leg worked on. I had the total knee replacement operation. There's metal in there now. I'm bionic.
Jesus.
And but since then, like just last week, a piece went bad and I had to go in and do it again. So I'm kind of like limping around, but it's not as bad as the first time. The first time was so bad. It was so painful. I kept thinking, this is it. My career is over. I'm done. I'll never be able to play drums again. And at the same time, we had the Lords of 52nd Street, which was me, Richie Cannata, and Russell Javers, all got into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. So we started the Lords of 52nd Street, the band again. So there I was playing the music with the guys that I played it with in the beginning. And the only thing that I was missing was the guy that I looked at for 30 years, live and in the studio. And we bounced off, we laughed, we fought, it was fun. So basically I thought to myself, I just want my friend back. I don't want the gig back. I just want to have this guy as my friend again, because there's so many things that we shared, And so I wrote him an email. And I said, I was a little disappointed at the way it ended, because it was 15 years that we didn't talk to each other, 15 years of going after each other. He would hear me say something about him and he would say something about me. And I said, went back and forth.
Right.
So I immediately got an email back and he said, I was disappointed too at the way it ended. So I said, well, I'm laying in bed, I'm getting better. And on this date in February, I'm going to be in Florida with the Lords of 52nd Street with Russell and Richie. And I'd like to have a meal with you. Maybe we could have dinner or something like that. And he said, well, I have the two little girls now and they kind of go to bed around dinner time. So I can meet you for breakfast the next day. So it was great, because people always asked me, Fran, they always said, if you saw Billy on the street, what would you do? And I said, I'd give him a hug, give him a kiss on the cheek, and tell him I love him. And because the people themselves that they look into something and they form their own opinion of what actually happens. I hear a lot of people after they've seen Hired Gun, I'll never listen to Billy Joel again. He dissed his band. They don't think about the guy's had a career for 60 years. He has to do what he has to do. Sometimes you have to move on, and sometimes you have to hurt people, not intentionally, but you do it because you have to move on. And so I was looking at it that way. So when I wrote my book after coming out of Hired Gun, that's the way I looked at Billy.
Right. And there's your book there. Where can people find your book, by the way?
Oh, HudsonMusic.com. It's on Amazon. there's also the one where I talk. Audible is on Amazon too. Audible, whatever the fuck it is.
Okay.
That is like, put needles in my eyes next time you ask me to do something like that.
Yeah, I had to do that too. David Ellefson, who's in Hired Gun briefly, he's the bass player for Megadeth. He wrote a book and he had me contribute to it. And the publisher was like, "Hey, could you do your part spoken?"
Yeah.
And I only had like a page or two. It took me 2 days.
Yes.
It's tough, man. People don't realize how hard. And just think about like the voice actors that do the Pixar movies and animated shows.
Yeah.
They got dialogue that's for an hour.
Right.
And you got to match it. Yeah, it's a whole new level.
Yeah.
So there's your book. You can find that thing anywhere. Seems like so, and it's a great read. I got to read it. It's fantastic. So please go support Liberty and buy his book and learn a lot more about you.
Yeah. So when he wrote me back, so we get to Florida, and the next day I get up and we go and have breakfast together. And and with the thing that was great about it was that we were talking like two friends that hadn't seen each other for years. It was like being on a bridge and all this bad water was running underneath us, but we were safe from it. And
right.
But by the time we left each other, he had to leave. He rode his motorcycle there, and it was starting to get really, really cloudy. In Florida, how it can rain like,
oh yeah, any second.
Nuts. Big rain, So he said, "I'm going to have to go now." And so I walked him out to his motorcycle, and I looked at him and I gave him a hug and kissed him on the cheek. And I said, "I love you, Bill." And he looked at me and he goes, "And I love you too, Lib." And that was it. We parted ways, and it was all good. And in that same thing, I asked him to edit my book. Now, I'm not sure that he didn't see Hired Gun if he said right away, like, "Yeah, I'll edit your book. I'll do the forward on your book,"
Right.
So he probably saw Hired Gun and thought, he can't be that bad. I mean, we tell the truth in Hired Gun. I'm going to tell the truth in the book too,
Yeah. Now, when you watched the movie, did you ever, right there live on screen at South by Southwest, were there any parts where you're like, "Oh God, I should maybe not have said that. Holy shit."
No.
Okay.
No.
So you regret nothing.
Nothing.
Good.
Nope.
And to me, I think that was probably a really cathartic, like, closure on that chapter of your career to just let that all out and everything else, right?
It definitely was, because Hired Gun came first, and I got to say on screen that thousands of people saw when they saw Hired Gun. And then I got to say it again in the book about how I felt and how now it has all turned out,
Right.
And it's a cleansing thing when we do a documentary like Hired Gun. The thing that was great about Hired Gun was it wasn't like, you always hear these interviews of like, follow your dream. You must follow your dream. Don't let anybody deter you from your dream. It's always said by somebody who's been very successful.
Right.
Never by somebody that's like living in the streets eating out of garbage pails. I followed my dream. You should follow your dream too. So Hired Gun was like, yeah, we all followed our dream, but now here's what we have to live with.
Right.
Like when the guys in the film are saying, like, I go to the ATM machine and a note comes out and goes, "You better go back to work, pal."
Right. It's funny you say that.
It's like it was reality, and a lot of young musicians said it was so real that either it was frightening or it was like, okay, I have to get ready for this.
Yeah, a lot of people don't prepare, for the long term. They get that check, and a lot of these guys are not on retainer,
Right.
And the thing is, when you see like Pink or Bon Jovi, and you're looking at this $10 million stage production with the lights and fire and spotlights and moving risers, the band don't, they're up there doing their part and getting a paycheck. Some of them get paid handsomely and some are just kind of like middle of the road. But when that tour ends, there's no retainer. You know, you're either painting houses, doing construction, taking somebody's Starbucks order or whatnot, you know. So people, a lot of people don't know the reality of this thing.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. I recently got this thing in the mail. This guy was suing. He's suing Billy for $16 million for the song "You May Be Right."
Okay.
And so I get a thing in the mail that says now he's suing me for $6 million because he said that it was his drum part that was on the record that he created at one time with Billy, and I'm collecting all the royalties, and he wants the money now. You know, and it's like, okay, first of all, we don't get royalties,
right?
You know, what I'm trying to say is the way people conceive what you are just because you've been on a hit record or if you hit records, you know, is so different than reality. And I think Hired Gun really showed that.
Right.
You know, when what's his name? The Steely Dan guitar solo, and when he talks about
Jay Graydon.
Oh my God! When he talks about that, I was in a cab and then I heard it. I didn't know I got on this deal.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I loved about Hired Gun are that came out 2017, but we started filming in 2014. So it's been 10 years.
Wow.
I still have incredible friendships with just about everybody in that film. Matter of fact, let me see if I have it up here. I don't. But anyway, last week I was in New York and you and I had brunch with Zach. You know, so it was great catching up. And this is when you told me you're having your knee surgery on Tuesday last week, a week ago from today. So I was like, oh, holy shit. But, I know that you have recorded with Phil X, who's Bon Jovi's guitar player now on one of his solo albums. Is that right?
Yes. I play his album is called, what's it called?
He's got the craziest name for albums, man.
It really does. And this one's a real good one.
Like Pow on the Lips or something, like something crazy.
Yeah.
Right in the Kisser or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Right in the Kiss, a Pow right in the Kiss or something like that.
Yeah.
And I play on one tune. What the hell's it called? I don't even remember. You know, it just leaves my mind. But I've been waiting for so long for him to do that, because it wasn't long after Hired Gun that he came and played at Madison Square Garden. He asked me if I would play. We went over to the Hit Factory, I think it was, and I played on this tune, you know, with him. And we went out to lunch, and then at the end he said, I can get you some tickets to see Bon Jovi tonight. You want to go? And I said, no.
That's funny. Yeah, I did go see them in Sacramento a few years ago, and it's a good show. It's long as hell. It's like 2.5 hours, but really good. And Phil is just such a presence on stage. Just bobbing around.
And we also talk about friendships that were made. We also had a great meal, you and me and Phil, at the restaurant in Brooklyn,
Cataldo's.
Yeah.
We did. That's right. He was there playing the Kennedy Center, I think, for Bill Clinton's 70th birthday that time. And I just posted on Instagram that I was in New York visiting my son, and he texted me. He's like, "You're in town?" I'm like, "Yeah. We got to get with Liberty and Zach or whatever and do a dinner." So we arranged it. We had it. Your wife was there. It was a great time, man. Always a great time hanging with you, dude.
Yeah. Well, good restaurants, good food, good friends. That's all that matters, man. You know, we made the music. We made a great movie.
Yeah. You know what else came to mind when I was jotting down notes for this interview was your drum solo in Hired Gun. Because I remember you talking about this crescendo of you getting let go of the band.
Yeah.
And you got angrier and angrier as the interview went on. So when it was time for your drum solo, I remember I was like, "Hey, Lib, do you think you could, when you're doing your solo, maybe start off with like brushes and just ease your way into the anger of your drum solo?" And you're like, "Okay." He goes, "Is there anybody playing after me?" I'm like, "No, you're the last guy." Okay. Well, you went bonzo and you just kicked the whole fucking kit over. Remember?
Yeah. I remember, you know, Fran, I think I told you this too before I did it. I don't do drum solos. Never did.
Right.
That's the first time I ever did a drum solo where that other people could see.
Oh my God. Well, you hear exclusive news, even for me. So that's great. So if you want to see his drum solo, Hired Gun is now streaming on Peacock and Amazon.
Yeah.
After a couple of years, 3 years or whatever on Netflix, these other companies acquired it.
And the greatest thing is that after I did the solo and I was just, up from the drums and starting to pick them back up again, Kenny came over to me, Kenny Aronoff came over to me and he goes, I was watching you from the corner, man. That was really good.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. It's the first time I ever did that.
So obviously a lot of drummers showed up for that taping we did at East West Studios. It was Kenny, Glenn Sobel, who did an insane drum solo.
Oh, he's insane. He's insane.
And it's crazy because somebody at Modern Drummer or one of these drum magazines transcribed that whole drum solo.
Yeah. I
was like, who in the hell? I know Kenny probably could, because that's what he's known for, is transcribing all of his playing. But Mark Schulman was there.
Yeah.
Did a great solo, and he was sick as a dog. I remember he had the flu. Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
Amazing drummer. Oh my, and a great guy. Great guy. And I mean, look at the gigs this guy gets. Lady Gaga, Camila Cabello. And, and he keeps it real too, man. I remember he always says it too. He goes, man, if I'm playing with a giant superstar artist and they're paying me $1,001 a week, and somebody that's lesser known that are playing clubs is going to pay me $1,002, and it's the same amount of touring, I'm going with $1,002. I got to take care of my family. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he doesn't give a shit about the fame or like whatever. It's a job,
It definitely is a job.
Yeah. And the newness, I mean, for you, I'm sure you're getting paid handsomely by Billy Joel, but was there ever a time where you're like, okay, the fun, yes, playing in front of all these tens of thousands of people every night doing stadiums or whatnot is cool, but the paycheck is not adding up with the amount of work I'm doing and the time away from family. Did you ever think that at all, or were you satisfied with your paycheck?
No, I think the thing that kept me going in the times when things weren't looking good was the paycheck.
Okay.
I was able to do great things with the money. I was always the highest paid out of everybody. Anytime there was negotiation with the accountants or whatever, management, Billy would always tell them, I want Lib. Don't let him get away,
Right. Okay. So there's that loyalty there. That's great.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to flash some pictures up here, some iconic photos. I mean, come on. Look at this, dude. What kind of man? I love the watch on your foot to keep time, right?
We were so boring that the photographer said, you guys are the most boring band I've ever photographed. Do something different. And I said, okay. And I put my watch around my ankle and put my glasses. I get pictures of young kids that did that. That sent me pictures of them with their,
Right. What year was this, Lib?
That's Glass Houses. That's the inner sleeve for Glass Houses. That's 79.
79. Okay.
Yeah. And Billy took the grease pencil that you write on the board.
Yep.
And wrote all our names on there because it was so boring looking,
Oh,
David Brown's shoes was so dirty that whole white that's on the bottom had footprints all over it. They had to
Photoshop them out or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's another iconic shot.
That's a good one.
Oh my God. Is Billy Joel got a pair of your sticks in his hand?
And he's got a switchblade.
That's a switchblade?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we were we did this video where we're in the playground, like West Side Story, And one guy calls the other guy over, and we start walking, and then we go into the subway. It's for My Life, the song My Life.
Yeah.
And we go into the subway like that, but we come out of the subway. I'm wearing a floral shirt, and Billy's got his suit on, and
oh my God. If I'm not mistaken, some of that footage then is probably in Hired Gun, because remember you talked about you guys were like a gang
Yeah.
and you guys are walking down the playground or a park or whatnot, and you're all
Yes.
look like a
Yes. I think that's in Hired Gun. Yeah.
yeah. That is so cool. And then there's I mean, who can forget this?
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Yeah. That's the Back of the Stranger.
I mean,
Who knew? Who knew at
who
that time that that was all going to happen?
when you're creating those songs on the string, I mean, it is his most iconic album. Could you tell there
Yeah.
was a magic in the studio to these songs
You
that would be
you know what it was? It was like, me and Doug had been playing together for so long. We had already done Turnstiles. Doug and I had, with Russell Javers, had the band Topper that we had for years already. We were playing together all the time. So all you could think about was that we, I'm in the studio with my friends and we're just doing something that we love to do. Whether it's going to be a hit or not, I don't know. But the fact of playing with Phil Ramone for the first time, that was it. There's the documentary coming out on Billy Joel, HBO documentary coming out in the summer, that where I explain how it kind of happened. Billy was during Piano Man and Street Life Serenade was recording with studio musicians and going on the road with a different band. He moved back to New York, wanted the same guys to play on the record that go on the road with him, which really created excitement when you played live because you already recorded the songs, you know. So, and then he had his wife as the manager, who said, I could do better than the manager you have now. And he said, then do it. And she did great. And Elizabeth Weber, she stepped into a man's world, and in 1974, 1975, it was a man's world. And
right.
she took these guys on and just, made Billy the superstar that he is today. The only piece that was missing during the Turnstiles record was the producer. So once he got Phil Ramone, it was complete.
Right.
And I think that's when it happened, when all the pieces were there. It became the perfect storm.
So good.
Yeah,
Look at this. Come on.
That's a great one.
I mean, you guys really were like a family for all those years, huh?
We were. Yep.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And here's let me flash this up. This was from a photo session we did for Hired Gun. There you are with Phil X.
Love that.
Love that. Derek St. Holmes, which you guys performed Just What the Doctor Ordered. It was you and Kenny Aronoff dueling with drums, and you guys, you remind me a lot of each other because you guys are both hard-hitting drummers, aggressive. Look at this.
That's a great shot.
Dude, and he's a maniac. I love that guy.
Yeah,
I thought for sure somebody's sticks were going to go through one of the drum heads. You guys were playing so hard. It's like, fuck you. I got you, but it's a brotherly love you guys have, man.
Yeah, it really is. I think I told you the story once. The first time he came to see us play, we were playing in Minneapolis, and he came with his then wife, and he's watching the band with Billy, and he's going to his wife. He's going, "Oh God, I love this drummer. I love the way he plays." And she looks at him and goes, "Of course you do. He plays just like you do."
Right. That's hysterical. You know what else is funny? Johnny K was our engineer and producer in the studio at East West Studios.
Yeah.
And he was just like, dude, what is he doing with this? The way he's hitting a cymbal, because when you don't come straight down, you do a side like this. And he had never seen that before, and Johnny's responsible for he does a lot of hard rock stuff, but also mainstream radio. And he's like, man, in my whole career of ever producing, I've never seen you. And it's so effective. I'm going to start asking some of my drummers in the studio to experiment with that, because it just resonates a little harder somehow.
Well, what's funny about doing that stuff in the studio and being introduced You like metal. Yes,
Yeah,
I noticed that that's your favorite genre of
I'm a
music.
metalhead.
You're a
Judas Priest,
metalhead, dude.
Sabotage. Like, let me throw some love to Sabotage. Yep.
Definitely a metalhead. And
Yeah.
I couldn't wait for this thing with Phil X to come out, because now that people are hearing just a little snippet of it, they
Yep.
can't believe that it's the same drummer that played with Billy Joel. You know?
Right. That is so, but you've also played with like Paul McCartney on a session, right?
Yeah, but I mean the heaviest I got, I think, was with
Yeah.
Meatloaf on the Dead Bringer album. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Dude, that's so crazy. And then Karen, then you play with the Karen Carpenter, or,
yeah. But we didn't
and
play
she's
nothing
a
like
hell
I
of a
played with
drummer.
Phil X.
Oh no, but Karen Carpenter is no joke on the drums.
Oh no, she's good. She was good. She's a great
Yeah,
singer, great person.
yeah.
It's funny. I did a thing for Drumeo. You know about Drumeo? They're in Vancouver. They take all the drummers and they. Oh, there you
Of
go.
of course I know. I watched it last night, man.
Yeah, that was so freaking cool. And so they made me play to a Deftone song.
Yep. Shove
My
it.
something summer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
And when I did it, it was like, oh, okay, okay. They only let you hear it twice, and then you got to play to it, and you play whatever you feel, you know. And so they said at the end, they said that was really good. You never heard this song before? I said no, I never did, but I did have the opportunity of playing with Phil X, and his
Yeah.
stuff was kind of like this, you know.
Right, right. So that was a cool experience, huh?
Oh, that was great. That
Yeah,
was
I
really
love
good.
watching those things, man. Is there any episode that sticks out to you besides yours that really resonated with you? That you're like, wow, this is good. His take on this was amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a couple of things I see, like Mike Portnoy playing to a Taylor Swift tune.
Dude.
And my favorite thing is to watch the comments, about drummers like, oh, that was terrible. That was
Right.
horrible. I can't stand her. I can't stand her. And, so I wrote, look, here's the deal. What Mike played was unbelievable. Maybe
Right.
didn't fit in the song, but it kept your interest till the end of the tune. That's the whole point, is to get the person out of
Totally.
their comfort zone.
You
That's
know,
why
it's
they
funny you
do it.
mentioned, yeah, mentioning Mike Portnoy when I was in New York visiting Zach. Um, I didn't even know, but Dream Theater was playing Radio City Music Hall
There you go.
uh Sunday night, I think, or Saturday
Oh,
night. And I got to know a buddy of mine, Kevin, was like, "Hey man, I got a couple of extra tickets if you want to go." And I did go. And man, he's a monster. He is just a monster player, dude.
yeah, he's insane. Also, I liked uh, uh, Jordan. What's Steve Jordan?
Oh, Steve George and the Stones
He
now.
he played 2 and 4, and I just wrote underneath the thing. I said, "Folks, learn this. That's money right there." You
It
know.
is. To me, the drummers that overplay or they don't sound like, especially modern albums, they don't even sound like drums. They sound like some computerized digital shit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I love like AC/DC. That sounds like
Yes.
a fucking drum. The
Yeah.
Stranger, that's drums,
Yeah.
right? And now you hear this stuff just all triggered sounding and just so to the click that there's
Yeah.
no push or pull or
No,
like
it's exact.
emotion, right?
Yeah.
What is your take? Do you play to a click like in the studio? Or back then,
Oh,
did they have a click or they have like metronome or what they have back
well, there was a click. They had a little click in the board. Um,
then?
And the only reason that Phil used it was when you're going over the tune, you eventually hit the exact tempo that this tune should be at. We have a tendency to speed up. If you put
Right.
on sometimes a fantasy in the beginning on Glass House's album, it starts at one tempo and it ends at another one, you know. But so if we were doing the take, he would start the click, and then we'd go, and once we got off the click, he would pull the click out, and let us continue to play. If it wasn't the take, we always had the advantage of being able to go back to the click to get that exact tempo again. Because usually if
Right.
you start the song again, you started at the tempo you ended at. you know. So to not lose the great tempo, he had the click as a reference to go back to.
Right. So Billy Joel's such an enormous artist that just every one of his albums is a smash hit, right?
Yeah.
And when I was visiting Zach in New York last week, we went to Whole Foods and Only the Good Die Young's playing. And Zach elbows me and goes, "There's Liberty." I was like, "Yeah." We're in a cab. Another Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. There's Lib. Somewhere else. We heard 3 Billy Joel songs in that 4 days that I was there visiting. What is it like when you walk into a grocery store or restaurant, you hear yourself playing on one of these iconic tunes? Do you ever pinch yourself and like, does the pride come out? What is it like? Is it like,
Well,
I'm used to this now?
when I hear the stuff, I go immediately to what it was like to be in that studio and what we ate that day, and how much fun it was, what it took to pull that out of us, you know. Like Only the Good Die
Right.
Young, there's that story where I told Billy, he wrote it as a reggae tune, you know, and I said, this sucks, man. You know, I told him the closest he's ever been to Jamaica was the Jamaica train station that's on Long Island, you know.
Right.
And
Would he ever take offense to that, or was he open to criticism?
no, he was always open to criticism. He used to call me all the time, you know, oh, I got this new thing. What do you think of it? You know, and I would say, yeah, it's good, or it's great, or I don't know about that. And one time he wrote a song about, like, it was called "It Ain't You, Man," and it was about him being at his own funeral.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he played it for me, and he read the words to me, and he goes, "What do you think?" And I said, I don't think people want to hear about you dying and stuff like that. And he goes, "Shit, I knew you were going to say that." Back to the drawing board. And it's now, the song is now on the Bridge album called "Getting Closer." It's more about how he got ripped off by his managers.
Oh my God. Right. Those stories go on forever. I'm just going to ask you some general questions here. So you approach playing the drums more as storytelling
Yes.
rather than just keeping time and doing whatever. So for instance, Just the Way You Are,
Mm.
right? I think it was that one. It's in Hired Gun where Billy's talking about you came in and he had this backwards shuffle he wanted you to play, but you're a rock drummer, right? So it was like you came in and really finessed that part for him.
Yeah. Well, you know, I play to the lyrics of a
Mhm.
song. You know, while everybody else is writing out their charts and stuff, guitars writing out their charts, bass, I want Billy's lyrics. He always handed me his lyrics because I want to know what the song is about. That way, I will interpret the drum part to go with what the song is about. You know, I always have this thing where I say, like, you're going to play a song like Just the Way You Are. It's a lot of love, maybe brush, you know, brush and stick, as opposed to a song called "I Hate Your Guts So Much I Want to Drive My Car Through Your Family's House." It's going to have a lot of double bass drum and China cymbals and shit, you know.
Right. Right. That's
So,
funny.
I approach it like that way, rather than
Okay.
you know, oh, let me see what the latest beat is these days, you know.
Sure. And you've played on, like I said, legendary albums and legendary songs. Are there any deep cuts that maybe aren't so familiar with the radio listener that you're especially proud of?
Oh, I love the song Laura that's on the Nylon Curtain.
Hmm.
There's a song called Code of Silence on the Bridge album. That's the only song that Billy had a co-writer, and Cyndi Lauper wrote the lyrics to it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Billy was jammed, and Cindy came in the studio one day, and he he was like down in the dumps, and she said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I can't write the lyrics to the song. I can't write the lyrics." She goes, let me give it a try. And it's great. It's about how everybody has a code of silence in their family. You don't talk about it, you know, just something happened and you just don't talk about it, you know, and it's really cool.
That's interesting. So what's a big misconception about drummers? Like is
That
like
we
what's
don't
the
get laid.
biggest misconception? Like
That we
the
don't get
number
laid.
one.
That's bullshit.
Oh my God. That's not true. Look at Tommy Lee. Look at Liberty DeVitto. Look at all these guys. You're getting laid plenty, bro. Oh God. If you can
No, a misconception is that we get royalties because we just played on a record. The funny thing is that we should control the world of music because we are the guys that get people out of their seats, off their ass, and start dancing. A band is only as good as the drummer. You can lay anything else on top of a great drummer, and it'll be great. But we have no melody, so we can't copyright anything. I play something today, you can use it tomorrow. The biggest example of that, of being on the short end of the stick, is Bernard Purdy coming up with the Purdy Shuffle, and then Jeff Porcaro does it in Rosanna, and what's his name in Fool in the Rain, John Bonham.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
totally unfair.
I spent an hour with Bernard talking about how he came up with that beat.
Really?
The railroad train that went behind his house.
That's why. So why'd you pick, like you said, you're so limited on drums, what you can get paid royalty wise or whatnot, like they don't make a melody. Did you ever, when you were younger, like, I know that it was Ringo Starr that sparked your interest in drums, but do you ever look at like Ringo or Paul or George or any of those guys and like, well, they're getting all the.
Well, when I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, I was already started to play the drums, but I was discouraged. A teacher told me in school, I'll never do anything with the drums because I couldn't do the buzz roll and the Star Spangled Banner, and he told me to put the sticks down. But so I have the drums, but I really wanted to be Paul McCartney, being in the front of the stage, because you're way in the back.
Right.
Later on in my career, I asked my dad, I said, why did you buy me drums? And he said, they didn't make Prozac when you were a kid.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. Here's a good one. If you could form a super group of musicians, dead or alive, you're the drummer, who would that band be?
Oh shit. Let's see. I'd have to have Steve Winwood in it.
Okay.
He'd have to be in it. Who would play bass? Jeez, that's hard.
Right.
That's really hard to think of people. Who else would be in the band? Guitar player. Who would be the guitar player? The stuff I like that like Phil X can play a bit wide variety of stuff.
Yeah, he's a chameleon
like,
for sure.
There's a lot of guys that you love the way they play, but they can only play that one thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get Phil in the band.
Okay. All right. Steve Winwood, Phil X.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some monster, but I mean, dude, I got to tell you, man, the guy that was in Hired Gun, the Irish guy, now his name's blanking on me. He played with Phil X too.
Yeah. Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, he's such a good bass player. Rudy Sarzo is great. Legendary. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So you've influenced a bunch of drummers, right? I remember we went to Calgary together to screen the movie, and there were kids walking up with sheet music to some of the Billy Joel stuff, like, man, thank you so much for all your, you've influenced me so hard, Right. And I mean, anytime I post anything, legend, Liberty's a legend, right?
Yeah.
Who really impresses you as a drummer today, like a modern drummer?
Oh, geez. Let's see. I like the way, it's hard to tell these days because a lot of it's programmed, but
right.
You think it's real drums, but I can go back a couple of years. But yeah, now you see like the song by, what's the song, Take Me On? Who did that song?
Take Me On.
That's
oh yeah.
Who did
like Simple Minds or something like that, or
but it's got the greatest drum track, but Billy Amendola, who used to be the editor for Modern Drummer,
I love Billy.
he told me, no, that's somebody else programming. Jimmy Braylauer programmed the drum machine on that.
Oh, wow.
But it sounds like a real drummer playing, and it's a
Yeah.
really great part.
Huh. That's interesting.
You know?
It's funny. I remember interviewing Rob Zombie, and he was just like, the only person that comes into the studio is John 5 to play guitar. Like the bass and the drums,
Yeah.
I bring in studio guys. And this studio guy is Josh Freeze. And he's
Oh,
like, drums are done in a day when it
Yeah.
used to take 3 months. He goes, why? I'd be dumb to bring anybody else in. Touring situation's different, right?
yeah.
And Phil X said the same thing about Daughtry, Chris Daughtry. He did all the guitar stuff on the first Daughtry album, except for a guitar solo that Slash did, like a guest solo.
Right.
But Chris Daughtry, after taking his band out on the road, wanted to come back in and bring his touring band in the studio. And there's no slap to the band. I'm sure they're great music, but they couldn't cut it. And the producer's like, call it Phil X immediately. Get him back in here because this ain't going to cut the cheese,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a great studio guy, Randy Cook. You know Randy Cook?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It's great.
Yep.
You want solid? There you go. Get Randy.
Yeah.
And you won't get an attitude from him,
Yeah, no, these guys are pros.
Yeah.
Like Kenny, he'll chart his shit out, come in there, blaze, and he's out.
Yeah, done.
2 takes, out.
That's it, done.
Yeah, it's crazy. If you had to describe your drumming style with 3 words.
It really sucks. No, 3 words of my drumming style.
Yeah, your style, of the Liberty DeVitto style.
What am I doing?
Right.
When people ask me, how did you do that on the Stranger album? How did you play that stuff on Scenes from the Italian Restaurant? I'm like, I don't know. It just happened. I'm listening to everybody else, and whatever I felt fit.
Right.
Because I don't know how to read. I don't know how to write. Didn't take lessons. It's like, just like Ringo, or just like, a lot of those drummers that create these great parts.
Oh, yeah. What's one trick or technique you wish you had learned earlier in your career?
I wish I learned how to play a double stroke roll.
I don't even know what that is. So there you go. A double stroke roll.
Yeah, I just can't get it right. And I've asked guys that are teachers, you show me how to do a double stroke roll. Why do you ever learn that? I was with a friend of mine once, and Bonham does that. That thing he does, and everybody does that now. And I said to my friend, and I tried to do it, and I said, I never learned how to do that. And he looked at me, and goes, "You didn't have to."
Right. So Keith Moon or John Bonham?
Keith Moon.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Why?
The ultimate rock drummer. Ultimate, free, just playing whatever he feels like playing. And he feels, every feel is different.
Right.
But he's still in the song.
True. Yeah.
Bonham to me is an R&B drummer behind a big set. He plays like those guys from Stax and all that kind of stuff. Really like boom, ba, boom, ba. Feels like a boom.
Yeah, it's so open.
Nuts.
Yeah. What's the strangest venue or location you've ever played at? Like something just unconventional besides just an arena or a stadium or a club.
There was the Checkadome in St. Louis, was it? It was so strange and sounded so horrible. Like the saying is it should have been just to store manure in it. That's what it should have been used for.
Oh my God.
It's just disgusting. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've toured the world many, many times. What is like one of the wildest road stories you can share without getting locked up?
Well, everybody loves the story of me driving a car into a hotel.
Oh my God. On
Yeah.
purpose or accident?
We played in somewhere in Carolina. I forget where it was. But no, it was Athens, Ohio. That's where we were. Athens, Ohio. We played a college during turnstiles. We're staying at these Holiday Inns, that kind of crap. And we go past, leaving the gig, drive past this bar, and it's really crowded. And the guys in the band want to stop. They want to stop. And I'm like, no, I don't want to stop tonight. I just want to go home and go to sleep. I don't know. Come on, let's stop. Okay. One drink and we're out of there. All right. Well, that turned into a lie, because I know when I drove the car into the hotel, there was girls in the car, and,
Oh
and
God.
there was skid marks all over the parking lot. So anyway, I go to my room. I throw the keys to Richie, and I go, park this for me. And I go to my room, and I pass out on the bed. The next morning, I hear a knock on a door down the hall, right? And I hear, what? A real loud what? And the voice outside the door goes, Athens Police Department.
Oh, no.
And all I hear the voice inside the door go, you want room 5. It was Billy ratting me out.
Oh no. What a dick move. Oh God. Did you go to jail?
Yes. They took me to the station. It was a weekend. And of course, the cops looked at me and they said, well, our tour manager came with me. He was all nervous, and the cops said, it's a weekend. The judge went on a fishing trip. You're going to have to stay. And the tour manager's like, he can't stay. He's got a show tonight. We got to go. We got to get out of here. And the cop said, okay, you can jump bail, put up bail, and you can jump bail, but don't come back for 7 years. Don't get stopped in Ohio for 7 years. And that's when we started to change our names on the road.
What was your pseudonym?
Oh, I had ones called Bertha D. Blues. I was, the meatball hero, and
The meatball hero. That is hysterical, man.
Yeah.
If you could relive one tour all over again, what would it be and why?
Probably the tour of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, in today's political environment, it was like that before we went, before Gorbachev was in, when all those other guys were in, Khrushchev and all them were in. It was the Cold War, Then Gorbachev came in, and he wanted to give a little slack to the people of the Soviet Union. And while we were there, I remember talking to students, that would go to special schools and stuff like that, and they were saying, just wait, when Russia stops sending trade to Cuba, things are going to change. So that was 1986, 87, something like that. And I think a year later, the wall started to come down. So I'm not saying we did it, but
Right.
It was an honor to be part of that whole thing, showing people what it was like on the other side of the wall. Because we brought the whole production, everything went there. We went from England to the Soviet Union, So they saw what it was like. And I spoke to Billy after the election, and I told Billy, I said, well, we tried. And he goes, yeah, we almost had it, and it's really sad. Now we're going to have to teach our kids, how to be,
Right.
So that sticks in my head a lot. And there was one band that we went to see. They were playing in a basement. Bands weren't allowed to play rock and roll and stuff like that. I saw how they make copies of records. They make it on X-ray
Hmm.
the stuff X-rays are made on. You can make a
Right.
record on that. Yeah.
Hmm.
They would stand in a circle, about 10 guys with boom boxes. One guy would actually have say a Beatle album. He'd put it in, start play, and all the other ones would hit record, and that's how they circulated albums.
Huh. That's interesting.
So we went to this one place, and this band was playing, and the drummer's cymbals were beat up, just beat to shit. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave my cymbals with you when we go back to the States. I can't leave my drums, but I'm leaving my cymbals. So at the end of the show, he came up to me, and we took the cymbals off the stand, gave them to him. On the way out, he was stopped by the cops and military, because in the Soviet Union, you weren't allowed to have something that somebody else can't have.
Really?
Yes. So they were taking them away from him, and he was saying, no, he gave them to me. And they were questioning, why would he give you these symbols that he used? And he said, because they're broken. And he said, look, there's a hole in the middle.
Mm.
And they went, oh, okay, here.
That's funny. There's a hole in the middle. That's crazy. Have you ever been playing your kit back there? Because you're up high, so you can kind of see out in the crowd. I know the spotlight can hinder that a little bit. But have you ever looked out there and just seen something crazy happening?
Oh, I've seen people fighting.
Yeah.
But the worst is we used to play this place on Long Island called Westbury Music Fair. It was in the round, and the stage turned. So I remember there was this one couple. Every time I came around, they were making out. They kept making out, and we're in the front row, just making out during the whole show. And it really throws you off.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell are you doing? Or when people try to talk to you while you're playing, they're like, hey, and if you concentrated on it for 1 second, you'll lose it.
You're done.
Yeah.
Right. What's the most unhinged thing a fan has thrown on stage that you've seen?
Oh, well, I've to people that get my attention when there's crowd in the back, they would throw money that hit my cymbals to get my attention.
Oh,
I mean, there was bras and panties. The crew would come into a city early, the day before. They would go out to the strip clubs. We'd come in the day of the show. Now my riser was set up. I was higher than the guys that were down, guitar players and all them. And then there was a lip about this big behind me, and on top of that little riser, there was Billy's other pianos.
Right?
So this little thing there was a curtain in front of it, and my tech could slide it over, and I could see under the stage where all the drums were and the guitars and all that kind of stuff. I could see under there. Now remember, they would go out the night before, and they would have what we called Billy Bucks. Those were tickets to get into the show the next day, right? So I would get a tap on my ankle. I said, my tech was with my drumstick tapping me on the ankle, and the curtain would be open, and I'd turn around and I'd look, and there'd be a totally naked women dancing on the stage.
Are you sure you didn't play in Motley Crue and not Billy Joel?
This was when we're playing with Elton John, right?
Oh,
we're playing with Elton John. And we'd be up there together, the both bands at the end of the night. And I would tell Davy Johnstone, Davy.
Oh my
Davey
gosh.
come over and be looking oh my God. One time Elton jumped up on the riser to look. All of a sudden the curtain just went whoop.
That's hysterical. What's the biggest disaster you've ever had on stage?
Oh, God.
The biggest one. Yeah.
On the River of Dreams tour, they had when you walked into the arena, you didn't see any equipment. Everything was under the stage. And right before the show started, the pianos would come up. And then when the first song started, the drums would come up from under the stage. The first night we tried it in the Boston Gardens, the drums did not come up.
Oh no.
I was under there beating to the song. Billy, he was faking the guitar for one of the songs. We were doing a song that he just put a guitar on for it. And he's looking down at me and he can't stop laughing. It was like the Spinal Tap moment when he's trying to get out of the pod, and the song ends and then finally he gets out of the pod.
Oh my gosh.
It was just like that.
Was it the whole show or did it eventually come up?
No, just the end of that song. But the guys, the crew was underneath this thing that was supposed to be lifted with their legs trying to get it up. It just wouldn't move.
What is the worst piece of drumming advice you ever received?
Worst piece of drumming? Oh, let's see. Worst piece of drumming advice I ever received. Oh, why don't you try a double pedal? That was one.
You know what's funny? I, as a filmmaker, I'd love to shoot analog film all day.
Yeah.
Right. But it's incredibly expensive, especially if you're doing interviews, because as you know, our interview lasted 2 days.
Yeah.
God knows how many hours we shot. So you're looking at, 50, 60 rolls of film.
Yeah.
Right. Then you got to process it, scan it, and it's just, it's too much. Right. Now for Ray Parker's movie, in some pivotal scenes, I was able, to have that luxury of shooting some film, right? When he's going through Detroit talking about, him getting almost killed and beaten by the cops. So it resonates. But the worst piece of advice I got was, you put your digital camera, you're recording, and when the interviewer says something cool or impactful, you stop, set your film camera right next to it, and ask the person to say that again and do it on film. And that way you splice all that together. I'm like, wait a minute. Like when I'm talking to you about some of the Billy stuff, I mean, you can't replicate some of those emotions that you're telling me for the first time. How am I going to ask Liberty I need you to do it exactly, because you're not an actor,
the same way,
right?
with the same excitement that you just had.
Yeah. And it's like, that makes no sense to me, man. Like that's a no-go immediately. So I did not take that piece of advice at all. And this was somebody who was very high up in the entertainment film realm.
I got great advice. I told Billy once, I said, I'm thinking about going to Berkeley. I'm going to learn how to read music and stuff like that, rudiments. And he goes, please don't.
I mean, isn't it supposed to be dangerous, right? Music, like there's no rules.
Right.
There aren't. Right. It's same thing with filmmaking, Matter of fact, I just started shooting on film again. Like when I came to see you, I went to Madison Square Garden to shoot Disturbed and Sevendust. And I just had recently bought a F5 film camera, right? 35 millimeter film. And I haven't shot in 15, 16 years, right? Film, just digital. And I'm like, it's not fun shooting digital for me. Like you can't fuck it up. Like,
right.
You just shoot. You're not spending any money. It doesn't cost you anything until you get, out of 100 shots, you'll get 5 great ones. Well, with film, you don't have that luxury, right?
Right.
You get 36 chances per roll. The lighting's got to be perfect. Everything's metered, the whole deal. So I don't know. There's just something dangerous about it. What is your thoughts on analog versus Pro Tools?
Oh, I love analog. I mean,
right.
Pro Tools makes anybody a star. Pro Tools makes anybody a star.
Right.
You could play, 4 bars of a beat that I create, and I teach you how to play it, and then they just loop it. They just keep looping it. Back in the day with Billy, we had to play the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it sounds better. It sounds better. Analog.
Right. So you told me that Billy's doing a documentary. Let's say you did a biopic, right? Like a scripted movie, and you've had such a long, fascinating. Who would you want to play your character?
Oh, Kenny.
Oh my! Well, Kenny's not an actor. I mean, yeah.
I want him to play me.
Yeah. No, but seriously, if you like De Niro or whoever, like who do you think would be a good representation?
Can you imagine De Niro playing me? Hey, Billy, give me more money, Billy. Come on.
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm
Or
gonna
Joe
fucking
Pesci.
whack you.
Yeah. Yeah. Or Joe Pesci. You motherfucker.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So unrelated to drumming, what is something else that you're really passionate about besides just playing drums?
I would say my little 8-year-old.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
They
you believe
grow. I
she's
mean,
8? Can you
I
believe
can't
it?
because I remember when you guys got pregnant, you told me, I'm like, you can still get it up, you know. That's crazy, man. And you have a new granddaughter. You have two granddaughters, right?
2 granddaughters now. Yeah, one's
It's
birthday is
all
today.
girls, dude. What I mean,
All
are you just
girls.
starting to fill with estrogen or what?
Well, you know what happened when I was a kid? I wanted every girl in the world, and now I've got
Yeah.
a whole bunch of them.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. How
Yeah.
has being a recent father, your other girls are grown. How's that changed you? Because
Well,
now you're. Let me back up 1 minute. Because when you had your other kids, you're on the road a lot, right? So you missed out
yes,
on a bunch, and now you've got this one. You're home constantly.
I'm home constantly, and I do everything with her. I take her to school in the morning. Go pick her up at school. I hang out at the playground with what I call my lady friends,
Yeah.
because they're all there with their kids, and we talk about things, and I made them all watch High Gun.
Did you really? They're like, this guy's famous over here.
Yeah, yeah, they freaked out. But yeah, it's just so much fun, and I see all the things that I did miss with the other ones. Like
Right.
we went to school. They're having a play. May's in 2nd grade. They're doing Matilda or something like that, and they had a little cast thing in a classroom where each kid did different scenes and stuff like that. And I told my wife at the end, when I saw May doing it with her friends, I almost started crying because I didn't never see that with the other girls. I didn't
Right.
see anything like that. It's the first time I
Have you
ever
ever
saw
called
that.
have you ever called your other girls and like now that you have this realization with the 8-year with May, like I am so sorry I wasn't able to be there for all these life-changing events.
Oh yeah, I tell people, you have to go where your heart leads you. Whatever, you got to give it a shot. But you have to realize when it's time, like, I can't do this anymore. This is screwing
Right.
up my family. I mean, 3rd wife now. They talk about you sacrifice a lot. What
Yeah.
you do, you sacrifice a lot.
Yeah.
And I consider it selfish that I actually had to walk out of my house and with my little girls on my legs telling me, please don't go, Daddy. And I'll say, you'll be fine. Daddy will be home in a month and a half. It's like,
Yeah. To them, that's an eternity. I remember having
yeah,
to do that with Zach, man, because I toured for 20 plus years and I missed so much. And now I try to make up for it,
yeah,
and you internally you feel guilty. I feel guilt. I
yeah,
feel, remorse. And he didn't suffer for anything. He's always had a good life. But,
right.
and now it's like, I mean, it's been years and years since I've toured 10 years or so, but it's almost like you're trying to catch up.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just lucky he's a great kid. He's never given me any trouble.
He is a great kid. But they
Yeah.
have their own lives now. And
Yep.
it's like you wanna go back to that life that you left behind. But you can't
Exactly.
because they have their own life.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and I don't know about your kids, but Zach is unfazed by fame,
Yeah.
right? He's met some really famous people before. He doesn't give a shit. Are your kids the same way, or they ever get a little starstruck?
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't give a shit, right?
No, they don't give a shit.
Same. I mean, I'd be like when I met Alice Cooper, I was starstruck because he was the reason I listened to hard rock.
Right.
The 18 song was
Yeah.
just peaking when I was a kid. And I'm like, what is this? and then the singer for Judas Priest. I haven't met him. Well, I did meet him briefly in 1990. He just whisked out of the Omni in Atlanta and signed something for me and ran on the bus. But that's not an interaction, right? That's just a quick autograph. But if you could have, let me ask you this. If you could have dinner with 5 people, alive or dead, doesn't have to be a musician, who would they be?
Oh, let's see. I'd probably want to have dinner with Jesus would be one of them.
Okay.
Because he'd get all the health food. And,
Yep.
watch me. We had a lot of questions for him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I would like to have dinner with, what comes to mind all the time is, what's his name from the band? Levon Helm.
Oh, yeah.
Drummer from the band.
Yep.
Just because he was so interesting in his playing.
Right.
And singing, and if you watch him shuffle, both hands are moving the same way, but you just hear a straight 2 and 4, and it's just very interesting. I would like to have dinner with my parents again. That'd be
right.
Nice,
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of people.
Okay. What's the one thing on your bucket list that has nothing to do with music?
Nothing to do with music.
Yep.
Well,
bucket list.
There's a lot of places I want to see. I've never been to the Grand Canyon.
Really?
Yeah. I would like to be driving down that street where you see people have to stop because all these buffalo go across the street.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's a 3-hour flight. What are you waiting on?
Yeah. Well, my wife's got to get vacation time.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I want to do that. I want to go to India. I want to see that.
I've not been to India either. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah. Do you believe in any superstitions or conspiracy theories that people would think you're Liberty, you're crazy?
Superstitions or conspiracy theories?
Yes.
Superstitions, because they were nailed into my head when I was younger. Like I have to fight to walk under a ladder. Or if a black cat goes by, I'm like,
yeah. No,
it's ridiculous,
Right. That's hysterical. Yeah. If you could travel back in time to one show, what show would that be and why?
If I'm going to watch a show back in time?
One of your shows.
Oh,
if you could go back in time to one of your live shows.
I'd probably go back to maybe the first time we played the Garden. Because that excites me,
Yeah.
How exciting
it was funny. Yeah, I got to go to the Garden for the first time ever for a show. I was there for the Grammys, like right after 9/11.
Yeah,
U2 played there. But I saw my first show last Friday, like full concert, and the band were so gracious to me and my son. They gave us like these all access working passes or whatnot, and photo passes for both of us. And Zach's not really a photographer, but here we are in the photo pit at the Garden for the entire show. Because usually, as you know, it's the first 3 songs and they bounce you.
They're out. Yeah.
But we had the privilege to stay for the entire concert, and they had a big runway, and the guitar player come over and bump fist with Zach. So that stuff is pretty cool, man. And every now and then I'd see Zach whip out his iPhone. I'm like, dude, you're at the Madison Square Garden with a fucking iPhone.
Yeah.
I was like, here, take my camera. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Good memories, that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
When that happens,
man. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things about sharing some of this stuff with my son, or the moments, that you can never erase. So you've worked with a bunch of artists in your career. Who is the biggest prankster on the road besides you?
The biggest prankster besides me?
Yeah. I could see you pulling some pranks.
Oh, God, yeah. I would say, when I did the band with Derek St. Holmes and Jeff Carlisi and Ben Orr and all them, Derek was pretty much a prankster.
Dude, Derek he's a piece of work, isn't he?
Yeah. I did something with him about a year ago, and recently, and he's still got it, man. He's still singing in the same key, and
isn't it crazy?
He's just so great.
Yeah, I remember, and I've told this story before too. on one of these podcasts, but I remember being in the green room at East West and Corky Hale. Remember her, the pianist?
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. And she's asking everybody, like, okay, everybody introduce yourselves. You know, it's like a little round table meet and greet.
Right.
And, you know, Phil, like, oh, I play with Bon Jovi, you know, Nita Strauss, you know, I play with Alice Cooper, Derek St. Holmes. I'm the voice of Ted Nugent. And she is like, get the fuck out of my sight right now. How dare you be in this room with me? You kill animals. Ma'am, I do not. I'm just guilty by association. You know, I'm just the singer. I am not Ted Nugent. Still, you associate with him. How dare Fran, what is he doing here? You know, and he ran off like a little scared cat. And then the next day she was sweet. She called me up. She goes, I feel so bad.
Yeah.
Could you please give me his phone number so I can call and apologize? You know,
that was strange.
Yeah, and she's a hardcore liberal, like, you know, and her husband is Mike Stoller from Lieber and Stoller, right?
Yeah.
So I go to their house for lunch every now and then. She's really a sweet woman, but I mean, she is so far to the left that when I came to her house for the first time, she greeted me with a voodoo doll of George W. Bush and asked me to put a pin in it. I said, I'll gladly do it. You got any more pins? Because I'd really like to pin this thing up. Okay, what's the best non-music compliment you've ever received?
Somebody said, "Oh, Liberty's so old," and one of the ladies at the playground said, "No, Liberty's not old. He's vintage."
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
You're vintage. Okay. Okay. Here's some rapid fire questions. Studio recording or live performance?
Recording.
Really? Is it
recording.
Because it stays forever, or is it?
No, because it's like an out of the body experience. You play, and then you're a different person that you get to judge what the guy just did.
Okay.
And you could say, like, no, we got to do it again. I don't like what that is.
Right.
You know.
Brushes or sticks?
Depends on the tune.
Okay. Because you do play the tune. That's one compliment I can give you. You definitely play for the song.
Yeah.
Rock groove or jazz shuffle?
A rock groove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Open-handed or traditional grip?
Open-handed.
Yeah. I don't get how people play, and I know it's because of the snare drums back in is that what am I saying, or the marching snare drum?
Yeah.
Is that why they had the
yeah, they couldn't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
That's interesting. Big drum kit or a minimalist kit?
Minimalist.
Okay. So you don't require like roto toms and a million gongs and all that shit.
That's for Mike Portnoy. Mike can keep those.
Yeah. Playing barefoot or with shoes?
Oh, shoes, sneakers, Vans.
Have you ever played barefoot?
Yeah, at the beach. You know, you
Yeah.
don't want to put your shoes back on.
Yeah, right. Headlining a club show or playing a giant arena?
A club show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing like feeding off that energy, right? That's right in front of you.
Seeing people right in front of you.
Yeah. Tour bus or a private jet?
Tour bus.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I like
I've had the opportunity. Yeah, I've had the opportunity to do a couple of, plane tour and a bus tour. Bus tour is cool if you're just, usually I'm with the band, right? Not the crew bus. So they're condo bunks. So there's only 4 or 5 people on the bus. So that I don't mind. But if you got to share a bus in one of those tiny coffins with 13 other people, it's hell.
Yeah. But a tour bus isn't going to crash into a mountain.
That's true. Although we have, we hit a pig once, a wild hog in Texas. It fucked that bus up. And we also had a chicken hawk come through the windshield.
Oh my God.
I mean, slam through it, man. It was wild.
That's crazy.
It was wild. Yeah. And I'm not going to mention the artist, but there was one tour we were doing in Switzerland. You know how there are those double-decker buses in Europe?
Yeah.
And we're going over the Swiss Alps. like, and it was snowing, and all of a sudden the bus kind of turns sideways and comes to a screeching halt. And one of the guys in the band he was drunk. He was an alcoholic. Took a bottle of Febreze and started spraying the driver in the face as he's driving through the Swiss Alps in the ice. Yeah. So I don't know. Late night jam sessions or early morning coffee and songwriting?
At this age, early
Yep.
morning coffee and songwriting.
Okay. All right. Long sound checks, or you just rather go straight into the show and just blast?
Oh, just blast. Right into the show. Go for it.
Yeah. You don't need a sound check.
No, just make sure everything works. That's all.
Yeah. Wild after party or straight to the hotel and bed?
Again, the age.
Yeah. Back in the day.
I used to love the after party.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So you're clean and sober now, right?
Yes.
Not even a sip of wine.
Not even a sip of wine.
Really? Was it that bad, or was it just a conscious decision?
It was that bad.
Really? Did you have to go into rehab?
No, I had the life coach again.
Okay. So when I met you in Anaheim, were you still drinking?
No.
Okay.
When I met Anna, a year into our relationship is when I stopped.
Yeah.
She gave me the ultimatum. She goes, "We can be friends forever, but I'm not living like this."
So you were a mess when you're drinking.
Hey, listen. When I was living in Florida, I had my friend Jojo come over. He drives buses now for bands, and he stayed over at my house overnight. Brought me some equipment, and we drank so much wine. And I had this gigantic stereo, and we were listening to Skynyrd, like on volume 11. My kids came out of their rooms asking us to turn it down, when it should have been me coming out of the room telling them to turn it down.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
Yeah.
Meeting with fans or hanging with the band after the show?
I like meeting with the fans.
Okay. All right. Okay. For me, when I travel, even when I went around the world, we did a 7-week around the world tour. My last tour I ever did, starting off in Tokyo, New Zealand, a couple of weeks in Australia, Singapore, like the whole thing, all through Europe. I brought one carry-on. Are you a light packer, or are you like, I'm bringing all my shit?
No, I brought a lot of shit.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because I figure I hate the airport experience more than anything else on this planet. I hate going to the flight. Cool, whatever, as long as it needs to be. I have a 17-hour flight, but going to the airport, dragging all your shit, going through security, I hate it.
Well, with Billy, we had the guy, we called him Baghdad. He's the one that
carries all your shit.
You just put your shit out the hotel room and it's gone.
Yeah. Do you like to play the same set every night, or did Billy change it up?
That was a problem with playing with Billy, is that you had to play what the people wanted to hear.
Right.
And it was always, the end of the set was always the same. Only a good day young, still rock and rolling me. You may be right. And it's like sickening to me.
So you got sick of playing those songs after a decade or two?
Even when I play with the Lords, they people want those songs at the end. And it's like, we got to change this shit. I'm tired of it.
You'll get crucified.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. Vinyl or digital music?
Vinyl.
I've been to your place. I've seen your vinyl collection.
Yeah.
And you had the test pressing for The Stranger you showed me. I was like, can I just steal that and put that in my backpack? Have you ever been offered any money for some of those rarities?
No. The only thing I've been offered a lot of money for is the flag I have from the Soviet Union, the old Russian flag with the sickle and hammer, where everybody on the tour signed it.
Christy, that's cool.
Billy, all the band, all the crew.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Classic rock or modern rock?
Oh, that's a good question. I like classic rock. I don't want to play it, but I like modern rock.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. New York City pizza or Chicago deep pizza?
You know where I am.
Yeah.
Where am I?
You love New York. I've never met anybody that loves New York as much as you, man. Like you are the essence of New York to me.
Yeah.
Like when you took me to,
I could go out
yeah,
and mug somebody today.
yeah, right. No, I remember the first time I came to hang out with you in New York, you took me to Cataldo's, which is one of my favorite Italian restaurants, man. It's just authentic. The family's nice. They come sit at the table with you and talk, and it was just fantastic. Dogs or cats?
If I had to have a choice, I like dogs, but I don't want one.
Yep. Too much work.
Too much work.
Yeah. Let's see. Time travel to the past or the future?
What was that?
Time travel to the past or the future?
Oh, I'd probably go to the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where would you go?
I'd go to the Ed Sullivan Show and see the Beatles for the first time.
That would be very cool.
Yeah.
Movies or books?
Movies.
Yeah. Same for sure. Would you rather jam with the Beatles or Led Zeppelin?
Oh, the Beatles.
Yeah, I figured as such. If you could only listen to one album for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One album, but it would probably Meet the Beatles.
Yeah, it's a great record.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw some drummers' names at you and just give me a quick reaction of what you think of them. Let's start off with Kenny Aronoff.
One of the greatest guys in the business.
Yeah, Glenn Sobel.
Glenn, another great guy, a fantastic drummer. Sometimes I get confused. Maybe he's a juggler and not a drummer. But
yeah, and he's a guy. He
does things with the sticks that I don't know how he does it.
I can't even chew gum and walk at the same time.
No.
Right? It's like, yeah, he's insane, and he's a great drummer and a great person. He's one of my favorite people.
Yes.
Mark Shulman.
Oh, Mark's great. Mark's is the solid as a rock. To play with Pink, you got to be solid.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson's a fantastic person.
Yeah.
And great drummer. You get to a point where you look at these guys as people, not as those drummers anymore,
Right. He's one of my favorite people too, for sure. John Bonham.
John Bonham, isn't he dead?
Yeah, but still, like,
I thought he was great. I was never a huge Led Zeppelin fan, and I would probably own all their albums if Robert Plant didn't sing on them. For me, it was like they came out and they were like coming out of like this blues thing where they had, I think Robert Plant would wear a jean shirt and jeans and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden they're on stage and he's got a girl's blouse on and a big lump in his pants. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm done.
You don't want to squeeze his lemon?
I don't want to squeeze his lemon. I don't even want to look at it.
Yeah. His voice is, look, Led Zeppelin's great. I'm like you. I'm not the biggest fan, but the voice is kind of like Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses. To me, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Like take the vocals out, put somebody else in.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll sell me, but I cannot buy Axl Rose. No go. Plant is getting there, but I don't know. It's weird. And imagine Roger Daltrey in Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
And I don't think didn't Pete Townsend write most of the songs? So
I think so, yeah.
But Zeppelin's, it's very sexist. It's very like,
yeah.
Now that I have daughters, I don't want them to hear that shit.
Yeah. I was gonna say, man, you it sounds like you were a dog on the road.
I was.
Right?
Yeah.
Having 4 daughters, how do you not go crazy?
Oh, I do go crazy.
Yeah. My biggest fear was having a daughter for those
Yeah.
reasons, because I know how I was on the road. I was a pig, right? And I'm like, man, if somebody even looked at my daughter the wrong
Yeah.
way, there would
Oh
be
yeah.
blood and teeth everywhere, right?
Even even when 8-year-old comes home and she goes, the boys are annoying in school. They're annoying, And I just look at her and she goes, what am I supposed to do, Dad? They're so annoying. I said, boys are idiots. And I'm telling you that because I'm an idiot too.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Let's see, who's another drummer? Will Hunt. You know Will?
No.
He plays in Evanescence.
Oh,
And yeah, he was on the Drumeo thing too, man. He's a beast and a good friend as well. But he's one of those flashy, you love to watch type drummers as well.
yeah.
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 I mean, we just talked about it a little bit ago, but like Steve Jordan.
Steve Jordan's great.
Yeah.
He's great. He'll never be a Charlie Watts, but he's great.
Yeah. That's big shoes to try to fill.
That's really big shoes. I mean, God bless him. He's doing a great job. But
yeah,
to be compared, it was bad enough that the guy that plays with Billy now is compared to me. I can't imagine what it would be like to be compared to, Charlie Watts.
Right. Yeah, Billy's new band. I've seen some videos. They're a great band. They can mimic, but they don't have that same fire, man.
No,
they just don't. It's not a slag to any of those guys because they're all great. But
yeah,
you guys were the original. You played. There's not many. I don't want to even call you a hired gun because you were in the band. You recorded, you toured, but there's not many artists. Like I'll ask the guys in Pink, do you play on the album? No, just playing, except for exception of the Top Gun Maverick soundtrack. They played on that one song, the theme song, the band.
Oh,
yeah. So I was happy for those guys because it made them feel good,
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was Lady Gaga telling the producer, I want my guys to come in here and play this.
Yeah.
I trust my guys.
Yeah, it's rough. It's playing live with Bill. I played those Madison Square Garden 34 times out of all that 150 times he did. And so the ones that got him to get to the 150, I played 34 of the beginning ones,
Yeah. Wow. Was it just like another gig for you to play at Madison Square Garden, or did you know that was a special place, like one of the most iconic venues on the planet?
It was the first time I stood up from my drum seat and looked out and went, this is it?
Really?
This is it? Yeah. It's like it's a big deal, but it's like, but this is it?
It's just another arena.
Steps and it's going to be exactly like it was before I went up the steps.
Yeah. Did your parents ever get to see you play with Billy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They used to come.
Were they just proud as hell?
Oh my God! My mother used to have a sign that says "Mom" and the arrow pointing down. If you put it upside down, it would say "Wow."
Oh my God, that's hysterical. Yeah. That's funny, man.
My father, if I went to the grocery store with him, he'd tell the checkout girl, "You know who this is? You know who my son is?"
Oh my God!
Like Seinfeld. It was like me on Seinfeld.
Oh, that's so funny, man. Now, does May understand what you used to do and how famous you are or were?
Yeah, we had a birthday party here. I have a little plaque on the wall that says that I played on the Grammy Award-winning "Just the Way You Are." That stuff. Yeah. I have a whole bunch of those, but they're put away. I just kept this one out.
Yeah.
And her friends, 8 years old, right? They go up to her and they go, "Your daddy has a Grammy?" Yeah, my dad has Grammy. Yeah.
Oh my God. My son, like I said, he just doesn't care, but I had a watch party at my house for like one of the boxing matches or whatnot. This is when I was still in Santa Monica a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with Apollo Ono, who's an Olympian speed skater. And I was like, Zach, can we come watch the fight? He's like, I don't know who's all coming. I was like, well, my friend Jordan Belfi, who's an actor as well, and Apollo Ono is coming over. He goes, wait a minute, Apollo Ono, the Olympian? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I can't believe he's coming to your house. And I'm like, well, come over and hang out, So we've had dinners with him or whatnot. And that's the only time I've ever seen Zach kind of like, whoa,
Yeah.
That's a trip. Well, Lib, thank you so much, man, for coming on. I support
Anytime.
everything. What are you doing now? Like Slim Kings is still alive and well?
Slim Kings is still alive and well. We're, I can't do anything for about a month as far as
Right.
films go. But yeah, we're still going live and well. They're still putting out one single every 6 weeks.
Okay.
Then at the
All
end, the
right.
album comes out.
Yeah. And Lords is still going out. Lords of 52nd Street.
Lords is still going. I had to cancel a bunch of shows because of the operation.
Right.
But we pick up again in May.
Mm.
Start all over. We just postponed those shows. They get scheduled for another time.
Right. And then lastly, so we know about Lords. We know about is there anything else you have coming up? Any new books? Any other documentaries other than the Billy one that you're going to participate in, or
The
anything
Billy
cool?
documentary. There's one that I just did about Bernard Purdy. They're doing a documentary on him. But the usual stuff. Sit around, you write something, and you go, "That sucks." You throw it away.
Yep. I was gonna say, do you ever get bored?
Oh God, yeah.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, especially because I can't go outside now.
Yeah.
I'll go on the roof. Every time I go on the roof and I lean on that one gate that looks at the city, I see you rolling with that thing.
Oh my God. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, when I went to go interview Billy in New York, I twisted my ankle on the way to the airport bad.
Yeah.
Like I thought I broke it. And my crew was already in the air from Los Angeles. I was living in San Francisco at the time. They were already in the air. So I could not go. So it was me and my son. My poor son was so embarrassed because I'm hobbling along, screaming and cursing, like, what the fuck did this have to happen now?
No less. Flip-flops.
And flip-flops. Yeah. So I show up to your place. I'd went to Brooklyn Methodist.
Right.
As soon as I landed, and they're like, yeah, you need to elevate your foot for the next 4 weeks and not move. I'm like, I got to be on set in an hour and a half. I don't have a choice,
Yeah.
And that really fucked me up because it took forever to heal because I didn't rehab it or anything. I was just, and I came to your place and you're like, your door guy, Carlos Santana, and that was his real name. It was so crazy. He goes, yeah, somebody just passed on the 7th floor and they have like one of those walkers that have the tennis balls on the front. You want me to grab that for you? I'm like, anything will help, and I can't tell you how many times buses almost ran me over going, it was crazy. And I remember we were in this, like an Escalade driving around with the crew and, we just whip over at Carnegie Hall, and jump out, and here I am hobbling along with the camera crew and interview there, then out in front of Madison Square Garden and wherever else we went. It was a time to be alive,
It was great.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, buddy. Well, it's good chatting with you. Thanks again for doing this, and I can't wait to see you again.
Me too, man.
Let
me know when you're coming this way.
I will. It'll be soon.
All right, man.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.